Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Camino Cafe. We are so excited that you are here listening to our show on our new podcast, or maybe you're watching on our YouTube channel. So welcome. We're glad you're here. And we are thrilled to have Susan Jagannath here with us today. She is a Camino pilgrim, an author, a best-selling author, and so much more. She's actually now helping other people write bestsellers. So we're going to talk about each of those different things. But Susan, welcome. Thank you for coming to the Camino Cafe.
Thank you for inviting me, Lee. It's really exciting to be here. And yes, as you said, I'm a pilgrim, and I think we all are pilgrims. So, in that spirit, let's keep that spirit alive even in difficult times.
Yes, so important, right? And I first met Susan online during this lockdown, and she has a couple of Facebook sites, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I joined a couple of her groups, and I've been very inspired by everything she's doing. And actually, I just took one of her workshops, 100 Days to Your Bestseller. And so I am an aspiring writer, and I will hopefully be working with her on doing that. So, but I knew after talking to her and seeing the quality of posts that she has out there, all the information, I knew that she was a perfect guest for us to have here today. So I'm delighted. And I wanted to see if we could just kind of start with, how you went from, I think you've called yourself a military brat,
Yeah.
to having this super successful career as a technical writer. And then you pivot and you become a hiker and taking these great adventures. And you turn that into being able to writing best-selling books. So I think that's all really super interesting. So can you guys just give us a quick 2 or 3 minutes recap of how all of this happened?
Well, sometimes, Lee, I don't know how it happens. It's just, I think maybe God has plans for us and it works out that way. But looking back, as I told you earlier, I'm actually doing what I planned to do when I was a child. So as a military brat, we had an exciting life interspersed with long periods of boredom, like when you sat on a train for 5 days with nothing to do. Well, there was plenty to do looking out of the train window and stuff. So the traveling was kind of in my blood right from the beginning. So in these long periods of boredom in between, I read books, right? I read adventure books, kids' books. I also read reference books, Reader's Digests, and geography books. I read anything I could lay my hands on, because as a military brat, you move every 2 years, and before you make new friends, you're alone. But I was never alone because I had the famous 5 with me, and all these books which children read.
Right.
So that made me want to write books, and more importantly, it made me want to have adventures, and that kind of took me to all kinds of places. Having adventurous times was normal for us. That's what you did as a military kid. At that time, nobody went on picnics, nobody went on trips in India except us. Everybody else, they just, went home somewhere. But we were always going on these vast picnics, which were like a huge pageant organized by the army. Yeah, we would go. And I've got these pictures of all of us, these family picnics. Now, in the army, when you say family, it means your family and all the families in the unit. So you went on these family picnics. Yeah. And we had a great time, and that sort of churned me out into a adventure-loving, sort of articulate person. I could also, talk a lot, because that's what we did. There was nothing. We played games, we read books, and we talked nonstop.
Really training for all of this from a very young age.
Yeah, I was training for this, but Lee, my real longing when I was a child was I wanted to join the army and be like my dad. Okay, you want to be like your dad. And of course, at that time, you could not join the army, right? Women could not join. So I thought, okay, I'll do the next thing. Next best thing is I'll become a doctor and I'll join the army as a lady doctor.
Oh,
But
wow.
of course, it turned out that that didn't happen. So I was very keen on becoming a doctor.
Okay.
But what happened was that when the time came to choose your subjects, I just could not do physics and chemistry.
Mm.
Right? Possibly because now when I look at it, after that I became a teacher. What a come down. Anyway, I became a teacher and I learned about the readiness of learning. And I just thought I was about nearly 18 months younger than the children I was supposed to be. So of course my brain was not ready for abstract maths.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was so good at languages and I was so good at geography and anything to do with language, my teachers and all, they said, that's your aptitude. Go and do that because you're so good at that. And I guess I have to thank them for it today because.
They were right. What, you had a 20-year career in technical writing?
Oh yeah, more than that. So I went into tech writing because I was, at that time, nobody knew what technical writing was. I actually went and became a programmer. I went and I went into IT because I loved science fiction. And so I loved computers when they came out. It was new, it was exciting. That was a huge adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was my time it was my luck that I was in Bangalore, which was becoming the IT capital of India and then the world. And we had all these brilliant programmers, but there was no one who could explain it and write a manual. The US client said, "Where's the manual?" And these guys would go to the advertising agencies and say, "We need a manual." And the advertising agencies would say, "We don't know." So I had a friend from college, from uni, who was the head of an advertising agency. And one day he gave me a call and he said, "I want you to go to Wipro." Now, at that time, Wipro was, I don't know if you heard of Wipro, very big company. And Wipro had a very clear policy that they only hired engineers, people with an engineering degree. So even though I was a programmer, I'd been a programmer for a couple of years, they were not going to hire me because I didn't have an engineering degree. Okay. So I thought, "Oh, go there, go and meet XYZ." So I went and met this guy and I thought, I don't know, okay, whatever. Because I was actually in a pretty good job anyway. But I went there and met this guy, and then he told me about writing the manuals. And I thought, can't anyone do it? And he said, "No, actually, we are having great difficulty." And so that's how I started tech writing.
So then
And
how did that lead into, so you did that for several years and then
that was a huge, in the whole time I was in India, that was technical writing is you're basically telling people how to solve problems using the software which they thought would solve the problem, which didn't solve the problem because they didn't know how to use it.
yeah. All right, so then you pivoted to starting to go on these adventures, these hikes after.
Yeah, so that was
Technical. Yeah.
again, it's so I was perfectly happy as a technical writer. I went from I worked for my documents have really been, I wrote part of the documentation for the JPL, which did the first Mars landing. Yeah, so we actually in India had the Mars landing in 97, it was. I think it was actually streamed live to our office in India because we had written the software and I had done the documentation for it. So literally, it was that exciting. Right? It was really exciting. So I continued on this, but I had no idea I forgot kind of my dream of writing my own books. But in a way, Lee, I was writing. I've written 65 to, I don't know, between 50 to 60. I've written books. They're really good technical books, but nobody reads them nowadays. So then it became websites, online help. So at the beginning, it was books. We had, there were great big thick manuals which we used to publish as print books to go with the. If you remember when if you bought a software, you got one CD maybe, and then you got a big thick book. You got a getting started book, you got a reference manual, you got a, using it. So all those books, I was writing it, and I guess I was happy because I was continuously learning. And that was an adventure in itself. I was learning about different, right, from learning about how to do the electric harness for an Airbus to, how to change a wheel on a huge machine which digs out stuff from the earth. Yeah, it's all exciting stuff.
Well,
So I was doing that and
let's the Camino, because I think we're going to run out of time.
yeah, okay. So at some stage I said, I started getting fat. Let's cut to the close. As you get older, you start getting fat. I am also very lazy in a desk job. The only thing I like to do was to walk.
Okay.
So I started walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also am very, I get bored very easily. I need to walk in new places all the time. And that's how I heard of the Camino.
How did you first hear about it?
Lee, it's a bit of a mystery. I don't know how I heard of it. I think someone here in Australia was talking about the Kokoda Trail.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I went and looked and I thought, oh God, no, I can't do that. And someone there said, oh, the Camino might be better for you. And I'd never heard of it. So I went and started reading about it and looking up the internet. And then suddenly, what happened is I saw that movie on the plane out to India once called The Way, the Martin Sheen movie. And I thought, seriously, right? I saw that movie and I was going to India to meet up with friends and we were going for walks in the southern mountains, right? We were going to hike over there and walk about and catch up and have a wonderful time because we were more interested in catching up and talking and eating, but walking was going to be part of it. So that's when I saw the movie, and then I started getting a bit more focused on, I'm going to do this walk, because by now I was walking every day. So when I say walking, we walk about 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, unless I'm doing a talk with you. Yeah. And that's how I heard about it. But at this time I was still working full time. And when we did we do a yearly plan in about, say, before Christmas, we do the plan for the year. And I saw that in October, which was the time I wanted to go, and which was the time by which I would have had 6 weeks of leave, there was a huge new release coming out, and there was no way I was going to be able to drop it, because you're writing a manual. That's the time when developers are changing their mind all the time, and you can't say, I'll write the book and then go. You have to be there, right, and get your hands or fingers full of blood, yeah, and do it. So this was now 4 years. I had tried for 4 years to go on the Camino, and I just couldn't because of work. Because we're in Australia, it's very far, Lee. It takes you a long time to get anywhere.
Right.
So I had given that up, and I said, no, I'm not giving this up. I said I'm going in 2014. I couldn't go. 15, I couldn't go. I said, this is 2016. I don't care. I'm going. And I just was looking at things, and I think I came across this Camino Ingles on the, just by chance as a 5-day Camino. And I started to, and I thought, oh, wow, that is doable, right? And that set me off on this doable Camino trip, because for us in Australia, all I needed was 10 days, really. So I needed 10 days, and we get a good 10-day break across the end of April to mid-May, because we have Anzac Day, which is always a holiday. So you have a long weekend there. And then you have May Day, which comes immediately. So you have these 2 long weekends. And if you take 5 days of leave, if you take 7 days of leave, you get nearly 2 weeks off. So that was perfect, literally perfect for me.
Let me jump in and ask you a couple of things. So you pick the Camino Ingles because it makes sense for the time. Not everybody can take 6 weeks, 7 weeks to go, right? So brilliant. You find a route that's going to work with your schedule. And at that moment, did you take journaling material with you? Did you know at the point that you were going to take this Camino that you were going to end up coming home and writing a best-selling book?
No, I didn't have any idea of writing a book. I was just doing the walk as a challenge to
Okay.
prove to myself that I could walk 100 miles, right? Or 100 kilometers.
Yeah. So did you journal each night, or how did you end up having enough material to come back home and write a book?
Well, I had, of course, I was posting on Facebook. Facebook was already there. And I had something called Periscope.
Oh, Periscope. Okay.
Yeah, on Twitter. Remember I told you about my 15,000 followers on Twitter? So at that time, Periscope was the only live thing. So I had been just talking about hiking and walking and about places in Australia before that on Periscope. There was no idea of any business or any book writing. I was just talking, right? So I was talking on, so I had these, every day I would do one or two Periscopes. And I did buy a book and I looked at, and it was not, it was a book of all the short Caminos and it was pretty old. So literally we would go out there and at that time it was well enough marked. But when you're in the cities or in the towns, the markings disappear and you think, okay, I don't know where to go. And there was no GPS or anything.
Right.
So I was getting lost. Literally the book, every time I saw, when it came back, and I would, get and say, oh, look at this beautiful place. But guess what? We found this by accident because actually we got lost.
So did the light bulb go off then that here's.
I would say almost every live stream, I would say, oh, I got lost and I'm lost in a cow paddock full of poop. I really should write the book about this. So I was really, so I came back and I was processing through the videos because I wanted to, see, like I had videos of me holding it and actually walking into Santiago and, all those things. So I was processing it and I kept hearing this, oh, I should write the book about it. And I thought, I think I'm telling myself something. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. So we walked in April, end of April, early May. And by August, I had the book out. I had published the book. And in 15 days, it went bestseller.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's put a pin in about the book for a second. I want to come back to your Camino. So you walk the Camino Ingles, and all of us pretty much, when we go on pilgrimage, find some type of inner or physical, there's an inner and external struggle that we sometimes are faced with. And I just wondered if you could just share with our listeners and our viewers, what became your big challenge during your walk?
I think the reality of your frailty and vulnerability, even though you think you're fit, and that's a theme throughout all my books. I train and train and train and train. And when you go there and actually hit the ground, you think, oh, I didn't train enough. Why am I so tired? Or why are my feet aching? Even though I had broken my boots in, I had been to the podiatrist, I had done everything. But walking for 5 to 6 to 7 hours a day in a strange country, not knowing the language, it's your mental, you have to be mentally strong to do it, because it's not so much like walking the Camino Ingles is not a huge physical thing. It's actually quite easy, but it's the mental unknown, it's the unknowingness, and it's facing your own fears and facing your own realization that actually you don't know anything. You're not this wonderful person who knows everything about a software and writing the technical book about it. When you're in a new place, you have to be open. And sometimes opening yourself out is hardly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard. It's an accepting of your fragility. It's your accepting of your, when you're in Spain, you've actually come, and you can't speak Spanish despite your phrase book.
Yes.
You actually come down to being a child again. You
Mhm.
come down to the level of being maybe a 5-year-old. All your adult cleverness, it kind of goes. And I think that's when you're open, and that's when that happens, if you let it happen to yourself, you have the most marvelous experience, which you can, because all your assumptions, your suppositions, your arrogance, your pride, it falls away. And that's when you realize, I am a pilgrim. I may be in 2016 walking with all the mod cons, but my mind is still the same. Your legs are still the same as those pilgrims who walked for 1,000 years. And I was always aware that as a woman, a certain woman of a certain age, in our third stage of life, we have really been given a gift. We would have 100 years ago, or maybe 200 years ago, probably at this stage, we would be dead long ago, right? We'd be dead of childbirth. And in fact, I did have my last kids when I was nearly 40, and twins. And I was thinking then that, at that time, if I hadn't had modern medicine, I definitely would have died, because it was, there were complications at the end. So, we forget that as women, we have always had a very dangerous path to tread. There's, childbirth, every childbirth can kill you, right? So this being here and being able to walk and being able to even be a pilgrim on the Camino when you're 60 plus, that itself is an enormous gift. And my book was to encourage people who thought they couldn't do it to actually do it. And if you go through my feeds, my reviews, you see there are people there who are saying, oh my God, Susan, you're my guardian angel. I thought that I could never do this. I had your book and I was able to do it. Okay?
Yes.
So, and there are a lot of people who actually, they don't just review it, they also they wrote emails to me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so good. As a technical writer, you normally get really angry people writing to you saying, it doesn't work.
But, oh my goodness, Susan, you've said so many gems in this answer. I want to go back and touch on a couple of things. I really like how you mentioned that, when we get on the Camino and we're going on this pilgrimage, we really see how fragile our lives are and what a gift this pilgrimage is. And
yes.
It reminded me of something in mindfulness that we call beginner's mind, that if you can approach the pilgrimage with a beginner's mind and be open to what's happening and accept that you can do as much training as you want. You can prepare, as much as you want, but you're really a beginner when you step on there, because there's going to be some kind of challenge that you haven't prepared for or you didn't anticipate was going to happen. And I think this stuff about, you're in a new place, everything's new, everything's different. There's just so much going on. So I really love how you brought that up. And I especially want to touch back on, what would you say to a woman who's in her 50s or 60s who has heard about the Camino, wants to go, but maybe has some fear around just what we're talking about, going maybe to a foreign country for the first time, the thought of walking solo, the thought of now doing something that's just for you, that's not about raising your kids, it's not about the career, it's just something for you. What would you say to that woman if she's watching or listening to us right now that would encourage her to say yes and book her ticket when we're able to go?
I would say to that woman, you are a woman. You are born to be full of courage. Like no woman can survive without that courage. We have that courage and that fierceness, at childbirth, or you have that fierceness to protect your child. That's given to us for a reason. And we have this, take all those qualities which you have, believe in yourself, and definitely don't just go out without preparing, prepare, but don't over prepare and don't overthink it. Definitely don't overthink it. And do not ever put yourself down and think that I can't do it. Let me assure you, if you're a woman of 50 or 60, you definitely can do it. And the thing of the Camino in Spain is that, you may be walking on the path, but like 1 kilometer out, there's a main road where you can get a taxi.
Yes.
And if you're frantic, if you hurt yourself, there's you know what? There's better coverage in Galicia in a cow paddock than there is in much of Australia.
Yeah, right?
So you are always, if you want to, you can do that. You are always in contact. It's not like you're walking out in the wilds of the Amazon in the 16th century and you're going to be eaten by tigers or something. You're not. It's this beautiful and sensation of being able to do something, but it's your mental set which you have to work on. And look, you're a woman, right? You're 50 or 60, you've had a career, you might have had a family, you might have had, might have had kids, or you might have had parents who you had to look after, and parents. And this was one of the things that I was a sandwich generation for many years. I had my young kids, I had teenagers, and I had my mothers. Both our mothers were, were aging, and we had to look after them. So we had all this kind of going on. And in a way, now that you talk about it, Lee, and we talking, I did this after both my mother-in-law lived with us in her last few years. So after she died, and after my mom had died earlier, and my mom she would spend time with us. She would, among the three children. So we always had to be available for her. So it's only after they actually passed on that suddenly the sandwich was removed. And I felt that I've done enough for everyone. I'm going to do this for me. And for women who feel that maybe that's a bit selfish, you know what? By doing something for yourself, by being mindful, by being caring, you are going to be a better mother, a better daughter, a better sister, a better grandmother for your children and your family. So looking after yourself and keeping yourself, healthy, and keeping your mind sharp, you're really doing the next generation a favor, because they're not going to have to look after you that much.
Well said, Susan. That is such a good point, because I think as women, sometimes we feel selfish to take this time to go on pilgrimage. But really, it's that putting the mask on your face first, right? It's taking care of yourself. And the Camino provides that opportunity to, I think, kind of reinvigorate yourself for the next chapter, doesn't it?
Yes, that's, you've hit the nail on the head, because walking the Camino gave me the next chapter, of my life as a best-selling author, as to write the books which I wanted to write. And but even in that, now I've been writing hiking books and adventure books, and then I've got 3 books. I've retired, actually got made redundant from my job, and I thought, no, I'm not going back. I'm going to have adventures and write. And yeah, we know what happened to that. So I didn't have that opportunity, but then I said, okay, let me help others to write their books. And
yeah, that's just what I was going to want to get into. So you've had to make a couple of pivots. And so I think this is really an endearing part about your personality, your skill set, that I feel like you really have all these stories where you have made major pivots in your life. So, we come to this past year with the lockdown, and you've decided that you're going to make adventure hiking your life, and you're going to write books about it. And then guess what? We can't travel. And now Susan makes another pivot. And that pivot becomes, well, if you can't go out and do these adventures, then you can start a new adventure of your own. And that would be to help aspiring writers. So let's talk a little bit about how you did that pivot, what made you come up with the idea, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you're working with people. So let's just start with, at what point did that light bulb, go off, where you're like, okay, I got to do something new, and what am I going to do? What am I going to do for the next year or so?
Well, that came up with, again, it came up from a lot of people telling me things, like saying to me when I published my books, oh my goodness, Susan, only you could do this. And I thought, hang on, what do you mean only you can do this? Of course you can do this. It's not hard. Believe me, it's not hard. Traditional publishing has made it look as if, it's really difficult and thing, but it's actually, if you have a system, it's not hard to write your book and publish it. If you were maybe 19 years old and you had no life experience, I might say, okay, maybe it's difficult for you. But all these women with these life experiences, some of them which are more than mine, I mean, how can you say that you can't do it? Of course you can do it. And it comes to the second question, but nobody will want to read my book. Say, well, I thought nobody would want to read my Camino Ingles book because it was not the Camino Frances, which is like the gold standard. This is like the thing. And I said, I don't care. If there is one person whose life I can change, if there's one woman I can encourage to walk, I'm going to write the book. And that's what I did. So it is possible. And then those people, there had a few people who came to me and asked me, how do I do this? And that's when I started. And this was in the days when we could talk and we could have meetups and we could have events. And, I would be invited to events and I would talk about the Camino and the book. And then people would say, but tell us how you wrote the book.
Yes.
Or tell us about how you got a publisher. And I would say, I didn't look for a publisher. I'm my own publisher, because guess what? In addition to being a bit lazy, in addition to being, wanting, not having enough time, in addition to all this, I also am a bit greedy because I want to keep all the money for myself. I don't want to share it with a publisher. So there you have the truth, right? You have all the truth. If you need to do the self-publishing. And in today's world, you do not need a publisher, right? Also, you do not need to be J.K. Rowling, right? And you do not need to be J.R.R. Tolkien. Go for it if you want to. But, do you know that even J.K. Rowling has her own publishing house? She publishes all her books. She's got Pottermore. She controls the IP of all her books. And she had the same experience in the beginning of no one wanted to publish her books, her first book, right? So right now if you think about it, she's a self-published author originally.
Right, I never thought about that. I never thought about
Yeah, she is really, because she got a publisher, but she retained the rights. And when she wanted to go out into America, into the US, she founded her own publishing house, and it goes through her own publishing house, Pottermore.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, let's talk for a second about your own personal writing process. And I'm guessing that's maybe what you will recommend to everyone. But, do you tend to write in the morning? Do you write in the afternoon? Or, you wrote your first book pretty quickly. Did you go away to write it? What was your secret sauce to being able to write that first bestseller?
Well, two things: a schedule and accountability. So I had an accountability partner, a friend of mine. I mean, at that time, she wasn't a friend. It was more like she was also an author, self-published author starting out, and she was local, right? So, because even though I had got lots of friends in the US and the UK who were also writing books, it's important to have someone in your own time zone. So what I did is I said, I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. And every week we would talk, and we would talk on the phone and say, have you met your target or not? And what's your problem? Or, so you had someone, so it was, it was Lee, it was secret sauce. Nobody else knew I was writing a book.
Oh, okay.
For my first book, right? Nobody else knew I was writing a book except my friend Wendy. She's now a good friend of mine. So we would talk once a week. We would talk, and also anytime in the middle of the week, if we got stuck, we would talk and say, I'm really, this mind map is driving me mad, or this chapter is driving me mad. So I had someone to talk to, and it was accountability, right? It's kind of, it just sets it in your brain, like, no, it's not as if she was going to do anything if I didn't write, but it's just yourself. I have to say that I've done this. I have to have this call every week. So I was writing, so that was the most important, I would say that is the most important thing. Have someone who is going to hold you accountable to yourself, right? Because it's very easy if we say, oh, I'll keep accountable to myself. It's very easy to give up. You make excuses. The other thing I did was, I was already, before this, we had already been waking up early to go for walks. So now what I did, I was still working. I still had, I still had kids in the home. So I would get up at 4 a.m. and write for 2 hours. And the house was quiet, right? And from 4 to 6, I would write. And after that, go out for a walk. I still did it, but not a 2-hour walk. Go out for a walk, come back, get ready, put on my makeup, put on my official office clothes, and off to work, be in the office by 9. So this 4 to 6 was enough time for me to, when I only actually did writing. And then after that, I would sometimes in the evening, because I had friends in the US and in the UK, sometimes in the evening, I would talk to them about the book. When I say book friends, so I would talk to them about the book and what was going on. And that's where I also met people who had also done this Camino. So I was able to discuss things with them. And what I didn't do was I didn't put a lot of culture into it, because really I knew nothing about Spain. And I did get a few bad comments saying, oh, there's nothing about the history of Spain in this book. And I thought, well, I didn't intend to write anything about the culture and the architecture, because I don't know anything about it. What I do know about is I did the walk, I walked, and I'm just going to write about that. So the book was definitely scheduled as a day by day. I wrote it day by day. What I did on day 1, what I did on day 2. Yeah, I did that. Then I came back and wrote the introduction. And after that, I went back and did the conclusion. So I did the actual day by day first. And in the day by day, it was, when you're writing a Camino book, it's quite easy. That way, if you're doing the journaling fashion, you say day 1, what was the distance? Where did you sleep? What did you eat? And I had the 4th one, what did you feel? Were there any feelings which came up in you? And that was the time I would go through my videos, go through my pictures and look at it. And I didn't actually keep a journal for this book. Yeah, I had just my phone with the videos in it. And I had people to talk to as well. And but sort of, I got this book written. The entire book was written in a weekend, I have to admit. That I wrote the entire book from Saturday morning to Sunday evening. And then the rest of the 2 hours every day, which I was doing, I was going back and cleaning up and rewriting and adding. So I had the shell of the book in one weekend, literally. Saturday to Sunday, that's when I just got everything down. And then every day I worked on them. I checked back, I looked, I researched, and I wrote every single day. So the book was done in 30 days, really. The whole book went up to first draft, which I was happy with in 30 days. And then, of course, I sent it out for editing and all that, formatting, had to learn all those processes. So really, you can do the book in 90 days. I just told you 100 days to make you feel happily.
It all worked. I mean, you have a bestseller, so that's fantastic. So what would you say? I think, when I was walking the Camino and since been being back, I think a lot of people that walk the Camino feel like they have a book inside of themselves about it. So 2 questions for you on this. First question, but I've also heard people say there are too many books about the Camino now. So, do you think there are too many books or not? And then what would you say to encourage someone that feels like they have that book in them, but they're scared to start, or they don't know where to start? What would you say to encourage them?
Well, I would, the word encouragely, courage, have the courage and have the belief in yourself. You know what, if you are able to walk 100 kilometers, or you've done the Frances and you've walked, 800 kilometers, do you seriously think that your fingers can't type out 100 pages about that? Come on, get real, girl. You've walked, you've done it, right? All you have to do is now talk about it, tell people. And if you feel that you can't write, do what I did. And I did this purely by mistake. I was doing Periscope, I was doing lives, right? So if you don't want to write, pick up your phone, get a recorder on it and just talk. Talk as if you are talking to a friend. That's it. And get it transcribed and give it to an editor. That's it. And just go through the publishing process. So all this, it's not, the only thing that you need to do is to harness technology and get out of your own way. That's what I would say.
How do you think that compares to actually walking a pilgrimage? Where are the parallels between writing a book and actually completing a Camino pilgrimage?
That's a great point, Lee. I didn't think of it that way, but now that you say it, in a way it is. I think if you go step by step. When you're doing a pilgrimage, you have a reason, you have an intention. When you have a story, you have an intention. Get your intention for your book correct, right? Is it a journal? Is it a life? Is it a memoir? Is it more about encouraging people? Is it about the wonderful people you met? What is it? So get that right. So that is like the intention when you walk a pilgrimage, is you want to reach a place. And when you're walking a pilgrimage, you're really looking for your spiritual growth, right? And your physical being is really being stretched to risk, because you're being stretched to receive both maybe the mindfulness and the spirit, but it's also being stretched to receive the spiritual gifts, because it's what we talked. It's when you break down your arrogance and pride, and really the light can't come out of you unless you're broken, right? So the book is the same way. You start the book with your arrogance and pride, maybe, and maybe if you've walked a Camino, you're no longer quite so arrogant. So we have, all Camino authors have this inbuilt advantage. Shh, don't tell anyone. Yeah. So start the book in that way, that you are going and doing something. And especially today, Lee, when people can't walk, if you have had the privilege of walking, I think it is your duty. Right? I think you have been given a God-given blessing in that you were able to walk. And you can now spread this blessing by writing about it and encouraging people, one, to be ready when we can walk, two, to virtually walk it if you can't walk it. So I think it's a pilgrimage that you start with the words on the page, but the words on the page have a magic. They go inside people's brains and they change them, right? You could change someone who is feeling miserable to happy. You can change someone who is feeling, that they are unable to do something, make them feel that they can do it. And some of the best experiences of my life have been being shouted at in the middle of Galicia by someone shouting my name and saying that they had read my book and were on the Camino, right? Yeah. That's amazing. Where do you get experiences like that except on the Camino, and if you write a book about it? And guess what? There are not enough books on the Camino. I'm still looking for books to read. Aren't you, Lee?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so everything comes down to the one person you're talking to. If there's a book which you can write for one person, write it for that one person. There's someone who is miserable. And we've read so many of these books of people who were depressed, they were considering suicide, and then they read this book or they did this thing and their life changed. Yes. Writing a book is life-changing for you and for the person who's reading it, because guess what? We're both human. We're reaching out across, how many of us have read books for reach out, really, like Jane Austen. I read Jane Austen's book and I think, did this woman live in India today? And of course she didn't, but we're reaching out, we're touching each other. And as a pilgrim, it's not about you really. You're not just a hiker. You're not just stomping on the earth. If you're a pilgrim, you're walking humbly and you're taking people with you. Today, we can't take people physically. Take them in your book, share your experience. There's going to be one person whose life you change. And if you change one person's life, you change the world's life, really.
Wow. I kind of just want to end the interview right now with all of that.
Yes. Yeah, words of wisdom. I don't know where they came from.
I want to go back and talk about I love how you said that, you know, on the pilgrimage, you learn to stretch, right? You're stretching physically, you're stretching spiritually, you're just stretching in all different ways. And I really, really find what you said about, you know, as a pilgrim, you know, first off, it was a gift to walk. And now, really, we could look at it that if you are an aspiring author, you can really look at this as your duty to now go out and share your story, because there is so much possibility from the sharing of your story. You know, there's further healing and stretching for yourself, but also the possibility of whose life you're going to touch and how that might play out. Because you know what? You could write this book about the Camino, they read it, they decide to go and walk, and maybe they come back and write a book, and now they're inspiring someone. I mean, it's just this beautiful cycle of all of us receiving the gift of pilgrimage and then giving back and then letting that circle continue to grow and to go on and on. I love your perspective on that. I think that it's inspiring me. I know I want to write a book, and I know people that are watching this are going to want to do the same thing. So I want to quickly, we only have a couple more minutes. I wanted to just mention, you have a lovely website, and I wanted to say, first off, you're running a couple of different Facebook groups. So could you just say what those Facebook groups are so that people can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so it's Bestseller Bites is the latest one, which is, it's a private one because Facebook has changed things so much that I was finding just anybody was coming in, and I was like, what? So Bestseller Bites, the thing about a Facebook group is you want to keep it safe for yourself and you want to keep it safe for others. So it's a private group and you now have to ask to join. So it's called Bestseller Bites. That's it. And I have another public one called Badass Best-Selling Authors. Yeah.
Badass best-selling authors. Excellent.
Yes. So all of them are for you if you're not an author, or if you are an author and you just want to come. I don't know where that name came from. I think I was trying to be cool.
Yeah, well, it worked. It's very cool.
So those are the two Facebook groups. There's also my Facebook page is too easy to publish, is my Facebook business page, which nobody takes any notice of because Facebook never gives it any love and I don't advertise. Okay. So those are the places, and my website is there, it's always, when you're with me, it's always a work in process. Everything is a work in process. Even now I'm having the next workshop on at the end, 21st of May, the one you attended, Lee. And if you were to attend again, which you're welcome to,
thank you.
You don't have to pay me again, just come. If you attend that, you'll find that it's different because, I don't have the answers, and I don't even have all the questions. And I got the most questions and the best questions from a group of kids who I was teaching how to write. And these kids came out with these amazing ideas and thoughts. And I just thought, I cannot believe that I'm talking to an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And they had this immense confidence and they had this immense wisdom. So like their ideas have also come into it. So, excuse me, if you go to my website or my Facebook and you find that it's not perfect, that's just me. I'm not perfect. And that's what I want to tell authors. You're not writing the perfect book. You're writing the finished book, the published book. Right.
Yes, absolutely. Now, there's one thing on your website that I just wanted to make sure that you could mention. So I think you have 3 ways that people can work with you if they are an aspiring writer. Could you just briefly mention the 3 ways that they could work with you to get that bestseller they're dreaming about?
Yeah. So the first thing is to possibly book a call. There's a Calendly link there. You can just book a call and just chat with me for half an hour or 1 hour. And that's basically if you want to go on and be coached by me. So the coaching is a whole different thing. But sometimes I've had people who just want to talk for 1 hour and they just get or half an hour and they just get an idea. There's no commitment in that. There's no commitment at all. But it's like an ask me anything, right? Ask me anything. So I've had people ask me, how do I self-publish? How much do I have to pay for a cover? can I ask my aunt to edit my book? The answer is no. So ask me anything about publishing. Yeah, about publishing. Do not ask me for my chicken curry recipe. You're not getting it. Okay.
And so they can do that with you. They can go to workshops. They can be coached by you.
One-on-one coaching with me. So you can have those 3 ways. You can also, someone now, I have a little VA now who comes in once in a while, and she says, really, nobody needs to come to your workshops. You're giving everything away in your groups. Remove the live streams.
They're excellent. Susan, your live streams are so good. I haven't said this to you yet, but I'm finding the information you're providing those that, can apply to doing a podcast, can apply to doing the interviews that I'm doing. So I think, for someone, I just find them super helpful, whether you're writing a book, if you're working on anything, I think a lot of your ideas can apply across the board to a lot of different things that we have interest in. But of course, definitely help with writing a book.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think of it that way, Lee, but you're right. It's all content which we're producing. Your podcast is your new book of the ASA, and your YouTube channel is your visual book, your video book. So in a way, it's, the book is still seminal because it'll be there. But if you're producing content, I guess it works. No, but I'm not doing a podcast or a YouTube channel. I think I'll go crazy if I try to do those as it is. One or a TikTok. Yeah, and some people say, why don't you have a TikTok? And I think, oh my God, no.
Right? We barely have enough time to do all the things we're doing right now. But wow, okay, we're at our hour mark, and I promised you that's what we would do. And I know viewers and listeners we're probably at that point where we need to stop. Maybe we can have you back, because I think there's so much. And you have said so many things today that have just been so interesting about your own pilgrimage, about writing books. It's just been really, really fun to talk to you and get to know you even better. And I know that you and I both share a lot of the same intentions, that if somebody watching today or listening to this podcast, if they've received any kind of inspiration to take their pilgrimage, then we've hit our goal. If they decide that they are ready to put pen to paper or start typing or dictating that first book, we hope that they've been inspired to do that. And I certainly find I know you're inspiring me to live out my Camino dreams, and you're helping me to keep my Camino essence alive. So thank you for how you're showing up for the Camino community. I think you are definitely, you talked about it as our duty to give back, and there's so much possibility. And I think you're actually living that every day through the work that you're doing, whether you're writing a book or doing your interviews or leading your workshops. So thank you for all that you're doing for the Camino family.
Thanks, Lee. It's not just a duty for me, it's a privilege. When you do your duty, you find that you are actually getting a present.
So true, so true. Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our listeners, all of our viewers. We hope that you will check out all of Susan's website, her Facebook groups. We will have links in the information when we post our videos and the podcast, so you'll be able to get to them easily. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of our Camino community. And we hope that you'll be back for our next podcast and interview. Thank you so much, Susan.
Welcome.